Let's talk a little bit about, what you guys are doing. You talked about the approach with your last third, and I want to know more about how you guys are working that into. You said when they come back January 15th, they need to be ready. And so, what was your process during? I would consider that almost preseason, just because you guys are going to
Yeah.
have what, like, less than a month to be able to get ready. So what did that ramp up period look like? You mentioned switching from mechanics and flipping the switch to, okay, we'll still work on what we need to work on and all that, but we also need to worry about what the pitcher's doing now. And so I'd love to hear just your process of teaching that side of things, and then we'll go as deep into it as you want to.
Yeah, and it really does change. And for example, when we're in our mechanical phase, it's batting practice. There's three stations in the cage. Obviously, we're fortunate enough to have a great indoor, but there's hey, it's a left on left, it's a left on right, it's a slow pitch or it's a fastball. But when we're in mechanics, we're just hit, get repetitions of left on, get a left-handed breaking ball, get a right-handed breaking ball, get a fastball. When we start talking approach and we really dive into it, I mean, we obviously have our offensive approach as a team, that we our hitters are a very stock basic approach. We have a basic understanding in bucket pitchers, in terms of just who they are. But I think where you can really train approach is, and I mentioned this a little earlier, but is you start training. For example, give your guys repetition of, okay, left on left breaking ball. Again, is it two strikes? Is it neutral count? Or is it an 0 pitch that he's sitting on where he's going to pull one of them, hit one in the middle, and hit one of the opposite side? But then also, are you giving him an opportunity to visually see what's the chase slider that they're going to throw you? Give your hitters repetitions of pitches to not swing at either. Something as simple as set up a slider left on left or a right on right, set up in the middle, let that thing start middle and move to the outer half, or excuse me, off the plate. That's a ball. And give your eyes your time to train that, because obviously we're not going to be swinging at that early and middle counts, but two strikes, when you're trying to protect. So that would be an approach standpoint that we at that point we move into, practicing how to hit a changeup. At that point, we move into double machines, one in front, one behind, two drops, only one comes out, and practicing, you know, a guy's 94 and he's got a 78 mile an hour curveball and there's a big differential. And then practicing and seeing if our hitters, can you go on off speed timing and react to that fastball? Or do you need to be the guy that needs to be on that fastball and you can react to the off speed timing? Those are the approach things that I think that where we really jump into from, a drill standpoint, where you're taking the same thing that you were doing mechanically, but you're just changing the mindset. You pull out your charts and you're charting, controlling the zone percentages, and then this can be done without TrackMan. I mean, in the cage, you've got
Sure.
plates that are painted, and hey,
Hmm.
we're gonna sit 0-0 right now on a right on right breaking ball. 0-0, this team loves to throw it. We're gonna sit on it. Okay. It's got to start at your left shoulder if you're right on right, and it's got to dump into the middle of the plate. So if it starts middle and moves out, you got to leave it. And then you can chart that. And so then that becomes a station that we do on how to sit on pitches. And because certainly teams pattern or pitchers pattern. Whether he's a big velo guy or a soft guy. So those are some of the things that we will do in the cage, that can replicate or help on approach. And then obviously, live out on the field. Moving into just timings. We hit with machines like crazy. I believe in them. I believe in machines because I think they can impact your timing. So we will
Sure.
do things
Yep.
like, lift your leg here, lift your leg here, and then don't lift your leg until the ball is out of the chute. So you get to understand, when I need to really pick up early or pick up late. And that
Sure.
really what that equates to is, am I sitting hard or sitting soft?
Hmm.
So, and those are all things during the really the last month of the season that those are what our practices look like. And but again, not again, but what I believe is in all of those things that I said, you've got your cage work, you've got your timing work, but I think there has to be a system of repetitive consistency. I believe that you start with your BP round in August, and I think you do it until June. And then where you different is your early work or your
Sure.
post work. I like that because it gives me the opportunity, gives us the opportunity to, if we're struggling, if we're scuffling, your typical, week 2.5 blues where all your hitters are early. You can back them up and everybody can do the same thing. And there's an adjustment to be had as a team. I like doing that. That's just something that I found.
No, and that's having a feel for your team too, and something that I mean this in a good way. You've been doing this a long time and been able to kind of see, okay, this may hit here. I'm not going to freak out, but I'm going to expect it and then have an answer for it when that time comes. I love that. That's
Yeah,
hard
it's
to do
fun.
as a hitting coach.
It's very hard to do in it, but it's also, there's a comfort in predictability, and there's a confidence in it. Our coaches laugh. It happened again. It happened last year. It happened the year before. It happened in New Mexico State. It's almost like timetable, just automatic. That I tend to blow up on the guys like week 3 and B of practice because everybody's early and jerking the ball, and then we go to the changeup machine, and it's like it's so predictable. So there's two things with that. One, I'm okay with it because we've had success offensively, but two, I have to evaluate. Well, okay, what are you doing? Because your guys are coming back early a lot. Is that normal or not? But we've been able to adjust out of that pretty quickly before our season start. We've had some pretty good starts,
Sure.
so we've maintained our system. But I think you have to look at all the factors that go into that.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I love that. And so you mentioned, bucketing pitchers, and I find that this is a really interesting concept, and it's probably something that the when you say old school, like they had to do because they didn't have TrackMan. And
Right.
I would love to just like you, if speaking to amateur coaches, and you don't have to go into it really in depth synergy reports from the Pac-12 guys. But I would love to hear just some advice that you would have for if someone's like, man, I would love to do that, but where do I start, or what are some different buckets that you would have that you wouldn't mind sharing with us? Because I would love to hear that.
Yeah. I think it's not using technology wise, but just being baseball coaches at as a high school coach, bucket the opposing pitcher into three guys, or into three types of pitchers, because essentially you really can do that. You can, regardless of level, whatever your level says is this. Who's a power guy? At the junior varsity level in high school, is that 86? Is it 90 at the high school level? I know velocities are just going crazy, but you know, for example, but just what's a power guy? At the pack level, probably 94, or high spin rate where the ball really jumps on you. But I like to jump it for simplicity for my brain and for our players' brains, but just taking pitchers and essentially jumping them into three. You've got essentially a power guy, you've essentially got a mixer, and you've essentially got a specialist. Um, Starting with the specialist, the left-hander from here, or the right-handed sub guy, or a guy
Hmm.
who might be over the top, but he's only on one side of the plate. The guy you can box adjust on,
Sure.
because they do exist.
Mm.
And then essentially after that, you've basically two types of pitchers. You've got a mixer and you got a power guy, and the difference being, the mixer loves his breaking ball. Hello, neutral, pitches backwards, big spot. You're getting the off speed of the secondary pitch.
Sure.
The power guy is the neutral count is going with the fastball, and he's getting ahead with it. And that can also be based on the guy across the dugout, and the pitching coach, especially
Sure.
at the high school level. If he's controlling
Right.
everything, you can scheme against him. But I think more importantly is just, that sounds great, but then more importantly is just, how do you how do you compete against those guys? Well, it really just goes
Right.
into scheme and understanding. If you're facing a mixer, for example, you sit soft, with two strikes. They got to practice it. That goes into that machine thing that I talked about in
Right.
terms of,
Yeah.
let's breaking ball time and react to fastball. See if you can do it. But if you're going to get that pitch early, middle, and probably late mixer, don't be surprised, because that's what all of us, especially at the high school level, we see so much of it as, guys have rhythm and they're flowing, and the boom, and a guy throws you a breaking ball, and, and you just
Sure. Yeah.
freeze.
Absolutely.
So I think if you can, as a hitting coach, you know, just bucket two or three guys that you're going to see, generalizing, and for me, that's what it is: power, mix, specialist.
I love that.
The the same side right-handed sinker guy with the change, the lefty can box adjust,
Sure.
or the right hander maybe backs off because it's all same side you got to pull.
Hmm.
But then more importantly is give our players their reps. That's the approach part,
Right.
heavy on the mixer, heavy on the power, but then occasionally the specialist guy. But
Sure.
that's how my brain works, and
Hmm.
I think it's very easy for a hitter to conceptualize that, and then as a coach, just give them the reps.
Well, I think that that would help with, you hear, okay, if we're going to game plan against this guy, we want to first start with our strengths and then understand what he's going to try and do. So what you're doing is setting up those situations and saying, okay, how can we win against this with what you've got? And I think that that's really good
Right.
instead of going, hey, he's gonna bust you in with this, and then you're gonna see this right here, and then he's gonna go up, and then he's gonna go down, and they're like, what? And
That's right.
instead of saying that, you're just like, okay, so here's kind of game plan against this guy. Let's see, how where we're at with this, and then let's start to tick away at, okay, where do we feel the most comfortable versus a guy that's like this, which I think has a ton of value.
That's right, and that's exactly right. And then if you understand that, in my opinion, and whether you're at a college team with a big roster or a high school team with a limited one, there is a guy who's maybe a better breaking ball hitter, or there is a guy who's maybe a better
Sure, yeah,
fastball hitter,
that's a
and
great point.
that certainly determines your lineup decisions too, on that guy you're facing. And you don't need TrackMan to do that, and you don't need video to do it. If you can have it, that's great. But I do think that there's a lot of power and value in your hitters knowing when a guy comes into the game and you've got in your scouting report and it just says mixer, and here's why it's
Hmm.
60% breaking ball. Boom, I know what that is.
Sure, that's most guys right now. I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah,
just
especially
power
in
breaking
pro
balls,
ball. Yeah, yeah,
man. So one of the things that I think gets discussed a lot, and you mentioned the clarity piece, and that's, let's talk count awareness, but especially, two strike approach. And I Jeff Leach posted a a tweet about it. I don't know if you know Jeff or not, but he's got like 10,000 followers or whatever, and he said, "Hey, what was your two strike approach, and did it work?" And I was reading through, and I don't know if there was one like that was a commonality between, the 100 people that responded. It was like 17 different things, and I was just blown away. And so how, I don't know what you guys do, but I'd love to hear.
yeah. We absolutely do. I think two strike hitting. I made. I'm sure I heard it somewhere, but it's a philosophy of mine. But and this maybe sounds a little goofy, but at the college level, two strike hitting is going to promote power production. And I believe that. Um, I think back to when I was a player in high school, and and I had no power. But I think back to when I got 2/3 or 3/4 of the way through my senior year in high school, and I hadn't struck out yet. Um, what was my response to that? Well, I started chasing that big zero. I'm not going to strike out this year. I'm going to put that on. I'm not going to strike out. So what did I end up doing? Well, I started expanding in the first two pitches. So it would have been okay to strike out every now and then. I probably would have been a better hitter. But more importantly, is just I think when our hitters understand or have confidence in, look, two strikes is back there. It's tough, but I've got a plan. I know I'm going to sit hard or sit soft. I know I'm going to move up on the plate or not. I know I'm going to choke up if I need to. But that back there is going to be competitive. So how do we teach two strike hitting? I've certainly changed on this. We've all heard all the mechanical adjustments. Get on the plate, choke up, get spread out, get your foot down early, no stride. You know, we've all heard all of those things. Where I am right now is you're going to adjust, make it be yours. Here are some ways that can be effective for you to play a little bit more defense, and we just say play defense. Um, I did just that's what you'll hear me yelling in the dugout. Hey, good defense here, play D, put the ball in
Hmm.
play. We're not in the big leagues. We're in college baseball or we're in high school
Right.
baseball. We
That
don't
matters.
10 teams field 980 in college or 15 maybe now, and it's like you don't put the ball in play. And pro ball, it doesn't make any sense to hit a weak ground ball the opposite side.
Sure.
Given what they're doing now, but it does in college and high school.
Hmm.
So that's where I've moved into is here are some strategies for you. Let me give you a month. You tell me what you want to do. Coach, I think I'm just going to widen up just a hair. I think I'm going to choke up just a hair. I think I'm going to move up on the plate. I'm going to go no stride and make it the foot down early. and it's theirs, and they get to own it. And I think that's really important. I learned that the first time that as a hitting coach, which was a lifelong goal, to have more walks than strikeouts was at New Mexico State. And we had Cruz is a nice place to be a hitting coach. You can be really smart there. And but we had, I think it was 320 walks and 305 strikeouts, and that was not including 110 hit by pitch. So we led
Oh, I
the
love that.
country in on base. Yeah, I mean we led the country in on base percentage. It was awesome. But um, that's in that year was 2019. That was Gonzalez, and that was Joey, and we had great offense. Tristan Peterson, a couple All Americans.
Sure.
But it was at that point where guys really owned their two strike approach, and so that's what we do here. It's what I believe in, but I think you have to have one, and I think you can't just say figure it out. I think you need to give your guys some strategies. I think you need to, for example, in the fall when we're in the mechanical phase, those three things that I mentioned, but literally widen up or no stride or foot down early. Those three things are actually a T drill, and they get reps in 5-5-5. And let's practice some feel of which one's more comfortable for you, because you do have to adjust. You have to make some version, in my opinion, of being defensive and be able to play defense. So
Okay.
um, so it's important to me. And then from there, we practice how to sit soft, how to sit hard, and can you do that? But we're going to have one, and we practice it a lot. Um, I think if you do that, then it gives you a much greater confidence, or with one strike, in terms of not expanding. And if we don't expand, we got a chance to drive the baseball. So
Sure.
um, that's the philosophy that we give with our guys, and then cut up videos of really good two strike hitting teams across the country and show them here's what it looks like. And everybody's quiet, defensive,
Right.
and you've moved your contact point back into the middle of your body, and then I think a really, really, really big key for two strike hitting is you have to give your players the confidence that they're not going to get jammed. You
Right.
got to give them
Yeah.
heavy reps of a ball in off on their hands,
Mm.
um, and they need it in toss and they need it in tees. Because if they know that they can get there, then they're not going to be as apt to be early. And then if you make your guys maybe get hit by a pitch and they can't move, then you got maybe you got something rolling there.
Yeah, no, like you guys didn't move at I'm sure you guys still don't, but it's part of that toughness piece. Anything you can do to get on base for your team, I love that. And speaking of two strike approach, I saw somebody posted on Twitter a little while back, maybe a couple weeks ago. Harper changed his a little bit, and I was like, man, like I wonder what his I don't he went like from full leg kick, like giddy up, let's go, to like foot down early and kind of just show his hands. And I was like, I wonder what his two strike, like if that led to success, and so I the guy's point was, hey, we should do this, and so I went back and looked, and Harper's two strike numbers actually went down this year when he
Hmm,
was doing that. So I was like, okay, so this isn't exactly a one size fits all thing, and I'm not gonna sit here and tell Harper how
no
to hit,
question.
but to tell all of our guys we need to do this because this worked for him, and it actually we after further research it didn't, I guess, based on the numbers. But it's just I love that approach of, hey man, like, do you have a ton of strikeouts and swing and miss? Then yeah, like there needs to be a change. Do you have an even or even better count? And then it's like, "Nah, I'm not. Do your thing, man. Like 100%. I love that.
Yeah, and and even in rewarding players, we had our Christmas party with our team last week, and we have ratio winners for the fall, the ratio champs.
I love that.
We have on base percentage champs, and but it is important, and if we're going to be a real offense, and you're going to be a real offensive player, then you need to live 1-to-1 in college, and the good ones do, the great ones do. And the guys you want to hit 350 or better, or you want to chase 400, and you need to be plus. And you can't do that without a two strike approach, because you're not going to drive your walks. So, because the days of just pitch counting and the, you know,
Sure.
you got to have a
Right.
two strike approach to drive pitch count, I think.
For sure. No, definitely. So I've got a couple more questions before you go, and these are a little bit more of quick hitters and digging into a little bit of what you like, and then some stuff that your players like to do at practice. But what's something that you've learned lately that has gotten you excited and you're digging more into?
Leadership.
Okay.
Um, Leadership, not only with the coaches, but leadership techniques with the players, developing leadership. with our leadership council, being better at giving our players the opportunity to be better leaders. I think we all bitch about bad leadership when we have bad teams. I That is our responsibility, and good leadership a lot of times is experience and guys who've had success. But that's really exciting to me right now. So I'm spending a lot of my time investing in it. I'm a part of a few leadership groups, not only that we bring in house, but I go out house or I go out with a green beret and an
I love it.
admiral and it's really fun for me because I get to come back and what you find is, and I'm studying business leadership because it's all the same. It's group dynamics, it's senior staff uh, at the executive level, down to the managerial level and down onto the entry level, and that's what we're doing here too. So that's got me excited.
No, that's great. What is something that you used to believe strongly in and you've either recently changed your mind about or you've veered off in a different direction?
Uh, Probably two things. Number one, it would be mechanics, and then number two would be the the desire to inform. And I found myself mechanics are critical, and we teach
Sure.
mechanics. Don't get me wrong, I'm very
Right.
mechanical, but just I used to believe that you had to be very complex and very precise in what. And I have found that we're confusing our players because I'm studying our players, and some personalities can handle it, and some personalities I'm destroying because I'm giving them too much, and their brains don't work that way. So you end up only fulfilling or satisfying half of your team, 30 of your team, whatever happens to your roster be. So,
Sure.
mechanically, being over mechanical, I used to think was what we were supposed to do. Into it's okay to sit back and not say anything as a coach, and it really is okay. Now I would be talking to the guys who we've all given lessons. You grow up in an industry where you feel like you have to say something on every rep.
Right.
I mean, that's not the game of life, and that's not the game of baseball. And the
Sure.
kids come to high school and then college, and if you're not saying something on every rep, so I think it's important that the
Right.
kids know that too. Hey, silence is okay. Evaluation is okay.
Hmm.
I'm going to let you learn, let you fail, and also I want to learn you. So I'm going to watch, and I'm confident enough to sit back and watch. But I think it's
Right.
very important that we tell our players, if we ever going to do that, that I'm not disengaged. I'm paying
Sure.
attention. I'm in, but I'm just watching. And I'm watching because I want to get to know you better, and then we can have better conversations down the road.
No, that's great. What is a drill that if you went to practice tomorrow and this was on the practice plan, your players would go crazy because they love it?
There's probably there's one for sure. I was gonna say two. I want to
Sure.
make
No,
sure
go
that
ahead.
but the double barrel drill is the top hitter of our program. That's two machines. Um, Breaking ball up top, fastball underneath.
Hmm.
Go right here because there's guys, like I said, guys really like that drill because they can use it for what they need to work on. When they cut, I'm going to sit soft, react to fastball. I'm working on two strike hitting. I'm working on hitting. I'm sitting fastball. I get the hanging breaking ball, and it's a 1-1 count, and I'm practicing just murdering that ball. Or I'm only sitting on breaking ball. Oh, when I see the fastball, I'm taking it. That's probably our most popular drill that our guys like. And then velocity. Our guys love it. Our
Sure.
guys, and it's 100. Great for the swing. Quiet you up,
Nice.
tighten you up.
Let's go.
But oh, and I get in there and I'll do it with them, and I can. The old man can touch a ball because I understand how to hit a ball behind my back leg
Sure.
and create. So, but they'll swing and miss, and I'll touch it, and it pisses them off. So,
Oh,
but
that's
I got
great.
some. I love it. I can get in there and leave. Now, if they ask me to, hey, coach, can you actually drive a ball into the six hole? No, my
Mm-mm.
bat's too slow. I can't do
That's great.
that. Yeah.
No, I love it. Well, then finally, I know we've talked about some different resources that you've really liked with the leadership training, and if you had the opportunity to buy the coaches listening, one resource or one book, what would you buy for them?
Oh. Oh wow. I think I would say I'm going to give three, because it's just there's two ways. Going back, I think it's 30 years ago, but the mental game of baseball was 1990 introduced to me, which moved to Heads Up Baseball with Ravizza. The mental game of baseball and Heads Up Baseball are the baseball bibles of the mental game, um, and tell stories from professional baseball players. It's an absolute. It has to be on every coach's shelf. If you're a baseball coach, you need to own that. And then from a managerial or leadership perspective, my favorite book I've ever read is The Winner Within, by Pat Riley. An incredible book, the journey of the Knicks and how they started, and the build and the climb and the ascension of their program, and essentially the locker room, and how he did it. And very fascinating because they're true stories. So
Oh,
basically just gave you
great.
three books about kind of the mental game, one
Sure.
locker room culture, and two individual mental game stuff. But I think those three have to be on every coach's desk. I think they're just, I go back to them every year. I open those books up, and to this day right now, even with the Cougs, Heads Up Baseball 2.0 is a textbook that we use in
Cool.
our classroom, that which we read it once a week in the fall. We'll go back to it in the spring, but we study it. I mean, you ask a Coug what ramp C means, they know responsibility, awareness, mission, compete, preparation. And they know those things.
That's great.
And yeah, so those would be the three for me. That's a great question. Yeah, those are very. They need to be on your desk.
Cool. I've actually read the first two. I haven't read the Pat Riley book, so I'm gonna have to pick
It's
that one up.
awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, it's old too. It's probably 95.
Even
I'm
better.
assuming, but it's when he was with the Knicks. He had gone from the Lakers to the Knicks. He was rebuilding the Knicks, and it's a really neat book on leadership and culture in the locker rooms. It's one of my favorites.
Cool. Well, Brian, I appreciate your time, man, and I've loved getting to connect with you, and I've been looking forward to this for for a while since we set a date, but I can't thank you enough. And I just wanted to give you the mic for a moment, and talk to our listeners. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell them before you go?
Say thanks to your wife and your parents and your kids if you
Amen.
have them. But I mean, it is. I'm so blessed to be where I am in this chair. I wouldn't be here without my family, and lost my dad last year. So, and it's just more of a reminder of how important family is, and to love your family. But if I could say anything to anybody listening, take care of your wife and your family and your mom and your dad, and be appreciative of what you have, because you never know if they're not going to be there the next day. And for we as coaches, so many of us just wouldn't be coaches if our wives or our partners hadn't helped us to at least work for free for a few years, to be able to get into the seat that we want to get into and work in this great profession. So that would be where I am today at my age with my wife. We're going on 25 years here just next week, so we're really excited
That's
about that.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. She's obviously got a screw loose, but I've been able to fool her for a long time.
I wasn't gonna say it, but I'm glad you did.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Hey, and I do want to say, I've watched
Sure.
Ahead of the Curve, and you guys do a great job, and that's why I wanted to come on here. The podcasts have been great. So if you're not following this, please get out and make sure that you're following this, because it's a great resource. I know us as coaches, we watch these all the time. When I'm watching a Braves hitting coach, I'm getting better. So
Mm.
use these resources because they're really helpful.